hardly a topic for laughing at.
G'day, folks. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Seriously Funny podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, a comedian. That's right. The first one, a comedian. He's an American who's turned into an Australian. He's now become an Australican. That is the worst dad joke in the history of the universe. But I thought I'd throw it in there anyway. All right. His name's Mr. Arj Barker. He's currently on tour throughout Melbourne. He's doing a run of a month down at the Athenaeum Theatre. He's got his first feature film coming out called The Nut Farm, which he co-wrote, and he's even played a small part in Flight of the Conchords, the New Zealand Comedy Festival. So please sit down, relax, and enjoy. We're going to have a quick chat with Mr. Arj Barker. G'day, Arj.
Hey, Steve, how are you? I think I would have maybe said Australican.
Australican.
But you went a little further with Australian.
Australican.
I don't know if it would help it much, but I like dad jokes too, so it's okay.
Either way, both of us would win an award for crap jokes.
I sprinkle a couple in my show because even people act like they don't like it. I think on some level we like a goofy joke. There's nothing wrong. As long as you have plenty of hard-hitting, edgy stuff.
Yeah, along with a few dad gags. A few Christmas cracker gags.
Like there's one gag in my show where I die and my dogs are eating me, and I'm a ghost and I'm floating over them and I'm saying, the premise is, I'm glad they're eating me because we don't waste food in our house. So I'm saying, good girls, finish your dad. Frankie, share with your sister. Everybody gets one eyeball. Good girls. That's how you get your vitamin C. And so that's a very much a dad joke within a kind of weird sort of darker joke. So, it's okay. And the audience groans and I say, come on, it's just a little ghost dad joke. Come on, relax.
Reg Hunter used to have a bit of a dad joke. What was it? It was that's right. He goes, one day I was in a queue or something and the woman got to my turn. She said, I'll just be a minute if you can bear with me. And he went, ah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That's up there.
That's up there. All right, Mr. Arj Barker. Now, for those people who don't know you, Arj is an American-born comedian, but has gained his success throughout Australia and has lived here for many, many years. And so we'll just all talk about, I guess you started comedy in America.
Yeah, actually, technically, I still live in California, but I do spend a lot of time here, and I tend to go back and forth as required because I'm still trying to hang on to my career back home too, believe it or not. But I do spend a ton of time here, and all my paperwork's in order so that I can stay quite as long as I want.
Well, your paperwork is in order?
No, that's how I like to say it.
So how did you started in the States though?
Yes, I started in San Francisco. In the late 80s. Early 90s.
Okay, sort of just before me. I started mid-90s. So you grew up in San Francisco?
Correct. Yeah, I grew up just north of San Francisco in a small village called San Anselmo.
San Francisco. I went there. I went to San Francisco in 1990. I loved San Francisco then.
Yeah, it has changed a lot, as you can imagine, but it was terrific growing up in the Bay Area. So I thought I didn't really feel so lucky about it till later when I had, you get a little older and you reflect on, wow, I was pretty lucky to grow up there. Or maybe you think, oh, I grew up in shithole, I don't know. But I think, man, I grew up in a lovely, peaceful, leafy area with lots of trees. And, it was a place where now it's pretty tough for people to afford a house too. So the real estate, it used to be working class. Now it's, big money, like many places. But
so that was the Bay Area, was it? Because that's where lots of the thrash bands come from.
Yeah, Bay Area, and I don't know too many thrash bands, probably to impress you with my knowledge.
Well, basically in heavy metal, Florida did a lot of death metal. Right, there's a Swedish death metal scene, a Norwegian black metal scene, and there's a big thrash metal scene called the Bay Area thrash metal scene.
Oh, cool!
So you had a lot of bands like Death Angel, Dark Angel, Machine Head come out of the Bay Area. I think.
I like Machine Head.
They come out of Oakland. Is that around there?
Yeah, Oakland. I also saw a Victims Family concert. That's more like punk, probably a little closer to punk. On the way to thrash, I don't know. Apologies, I'm not a musicologist, but I went in the mosh for like 20 seconds, got punched in the lip, and that was the extent of my moshing history.
I
Got a bloody lip, and then I was like, "Yep, that's not for me."
did one. What do they call it? Where you dive, a stage dive.
Stage dive.
My first punk gig in Sydney in the 80s when it was still scary for metalheads to go to punk gigs. And I went there and I thought, I'm going to try stage diving. I dived off the stage, landed on a few blokes, hit the floor. My hand went straight into a schooner glass and cut the whole thing open. And I went, yeah, that's enough for me.
Yep.
I'll go back to headbanging.
Tick it off the list.
So all right, so where did you start? Was it good comedy scene in San Francisco then?
Yeah, it was good. I did my first set at the Holy City Zoo, which was a tiny little hole in the wall comedy club, which had been going for most of the 80s, I'd say, or a lot of the 80s. And I got there on the kind of tail end of its existence, but it had a reputation for fostering new comedians. And there was a open mic there on Sunday night, I believe, and maybe Monday as well. I think the schedule changed, and they had maybe 2 nights where you could go there and you had to pay like $3, and you could be on the open mic list.
Yeah, right.
And you had to, assuming there was room if you got there early enough. And that's where I did my first set. I did have about 4 friends in the audience: my sister and her boyfriend at the time, and my buddy Doug. 3 friends. There were about 20 people total, and that was my first set. Man, I had a blast.
It worked out all right?
I mean, I was nervous. I was so nervous. I still remember how terrified I was. And some of that nervousness helped me out because it gave the jokes kind of it was a very raw energy, I think, that the audience picked up on. So it was kind of intense, like, oh my God, is he going to completely just fail here? I think it was such relief that what the jokes actually make sense or whatever, that the audience is like, oh, okay, we can laugh.
Oh,
I mean, I didn't slaughter, but I got genuine laughs here and there, and that was enough to get me like, I was just like instantly hooked on stand-up, instantly.
I have a theory. My first gig, I was thinking about doing it. And I'm nervous. There was an open mic night at the Comedy Store in Sydney on a Tuesday. And my buddy, he used to work in Asia, and he came back, and I've known this guy for years. And I said, they've got an open mic night. I said, if I ring and they say, yes, you can get on, will you come with me? And he went, yeah. So I rang him, and they went, yeah, we got a spot. Okay, starts at 8. And I was just petrified, of course, but there at least I had a buddy to go with me. And here's my theory: is the comedy gods, because it's such a hard thing to start stand-up comedy. It's not like I always it's like surfing, learning surfing. So you can learn soccer by yourself, kicking balls against walls, or tennis. You can do this, right? Or you can be in a band, you go to band practice. But comedy's like surfing. You have to start where it is. You can't surf in a bath or on a pool. You got to go in the ocean. And comedy's like, how do you start? You have to go, hi, I've never done this before, and I'm crap. And I think the comedy gobs, they let your first or second one be okay. So you keep going. And then they give you a third one, they give you total death. Now, that is the thing that goes, is he going to keep going?
That's true. Maybe that is, yeah. Or like I think maybe it's something to do with the intensity of that first one, that the audience really feels that, or, maybe it is God's, one or the other. I don't know for sure. It's not scientific. I had a friend as well. My friend Doug was the one that he actually sort of was encouraging me, like, Arj, you should try stand-up, because it was the 80s. There was tons of stand-up on TV.
Yeah.
And we watched it, and we were both, by our circle of friends, we were both considered like the funny guys. And for some reason, he didn't think of himself, but he said, you should do that, Arj. You're funnier than those guys, which I never said that or thought that, but he was just trying to get me fired up. And so he said, let's go. And the first week he came over to go into the city, which was just a sign-up thing, so you didn't have to call. I just chickened out. I was on the couch in like a fetal position, and I was like, no, I'm too tired. I got to sleep. It was like 4:30 in the afternoon, and I refused to get off the couch. And then a week later, I was like, "Oh, let's try again." So we came out and we went out and did my first set. So I chickened out the first week. It is scary the first time.
Man. So you're kind of like me. I never grew up wanting to be a comedian. So you didn't grow up wanting to be a comedian. You're just a funny guy, and
not really. I liked getting laughs. I had aspirations to be an actor at one point, very early on, but then I didn't really think about that. And then I never really thought about being a stand-upper, and I'd sort of fallen out of acting. And it was just that there was this popularity of stand-up, and then my friend put it together, and he said, "You should try that." And I've always given Doug credit for that. I've always said, he deserves credit. Doug Canning, who lives in San Quentin, California, a legend. We're still friends, and he never did it though. I don't know why.
So this is what, late early 90s, late 80s, is it?
Yeah, like 90, probably like 91 or something.
Yeah, right. So, and when you're talking about that 80s comedy, where you do it, like, that's when as I said, I was into bands. I was playing in bands, but in the 80s, that comedy seemed to, with Richard Pryor, and even though he came out of the 70s, but with the Eddie Murphy and the Steve Martin, and then. So were you kind of watching that stuff? Because that's what we used to do. We used to listen to heavy metal and then watch Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor, and that's when we sort of got influenced by, it's getting big. Sam Kinison was getting big, and Andrew Dice Clay and all that kind of stuff.
In the probably, late 70s, my older cousin, Ronco, played a Steve Martin album for me when I was just a kid. I was single digits back then. I was probably 8 or 9. And I thought this is weird, but it didn't have probably a huge impact. Later on, though, as a teenager, I saw Delirious, and that blew me away.
Yeah.
But it was really, the catalyst was all the comedy on TV, on late night, evening at the Improv, 5 or 6 nights a week. And there was a couple other shows too, but that was the big one. That would have, I think, 4 or 5 comics doing 6-minute sets. So suddenly I was being exposed to all these comedians every night and watching them. And that was really, it wasn't so much the big guys. It wasn't like my friend said, "Oh, you could blow Eddie Murphy off the stage." He was saying, "You're as funny as that guy," or whatever. He's trying to, get me fired up. But they were all professionals. And at the time, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember thinking any comedian on TV was definitely rich, because I'd assume they're getting they're on TV, they made it. Later on, I find out they're getting, back then it was probably $800 for the performance or something.
That's exactly. I said that on another podcast when I was talking about AC/DC. Basically, you'd see him on the TV when I was young, and I just figured, I didn't realize that only Australians were watching these AC/DC clips. I figured if you're on TV, you must be famous, like ABBA. Well, like anyone who's on TV. If you're on TV, you must be rich. So then you obviously, as you said, you got hooked. And so then was just like, right, start writing, getting into clubs.
Every chance I could perform, and I was I would put myself on stage, anywhere they'd let me, just about, for the next 10 years. For the next 5 or 6 years. Actually, within 5 or 6 years, I was working pretty regularly. But for the first few years, I would drive an hour, 2 hours to do 10 minutes. Open for bands. For friends had a band, I would jump up, which was terrifying, but not easy. But I was so fueled by excitement of this new thing. And I felt like I did have a feeling like I can do this, like I'm meant to do this almost. Or either that, or I just want to do this so bad that I'm not going to let anything stop me. It was lucky, because I found this deposit of rocket fuel inside me for stand-up that I would never have known was even there. And so it never felt like too much of a chore. The early days, it was just like, how can I get on stage? How can I get better? How can I write jokes? I'd go home after a show, I'm still writing, joke ideas down. And it was delusional. Like, some of those jokes now I would be like, nah, that's super hacky, I'm not doing that. But I had no inner critic saying, don't do that, that's too hacky, don't do impressions, you're not an impression guy. Now I have to fight that critic just to write a joke. Say, well, come on, it's funny, who cares, And sometimes you find a nice joke because you have to let go of that inner criticism that forms over years and years and years of being exposed to stand-up and forming opinions, which now I have to try to dodge those opinions just to try to be creative. But back then I was just like just filling up pages of ideas and performing them. And, there's something about that crazy belief that you could do something that can get it over the line, but it's hard to fake that belief. I genuinely had it.
Oh, mate, I love that description you said. It's kind of almost like there was that power in the 80s for some, this is what, late 80s, early 90s, but in that era that we come from, I had the same thing with bands, right? I would just do it. Where are we going? Where can we do? What can we do? How much can we practice? What can we do? Same thing when I started comedy. I was like, I drove all the way to Melbourne from Sydney to do open spots.
Yeah.
I stopped in Canberra to do a comedy competition. Actually won, got $800. It was fantastic,
awesome.
right? Drove off to thing, and there was that in it. I'd already had it with bands, but I know what you're talking about. They're the guys I trust. They're the guys that go, right, how far do I have to go to do this gig? 3 hours. Okay, go. Because it's another 10 minutes on stage. It's another 10 minutes on stage, and it all accumulates. And it's like those weightlifters that go, I just stay another 10 minutes more than everybody else. And then that accumulates to 70 minutes a week, and then it's this, and then it's that a month, and then it's like, so I love that drive. That's why the modern world kind of upsets me, where they've made everyone just demand that we were pastor, we need to have this. Okay, no, work. Get off, follow. But that's why I liked Rush, the Canadian band, because it was a dream, and the dream has got power.
I love Rush.
Yeah, and when you put action into the dream, man. Yeah, it's not work, as you said. It's not a chore. It's like a
no,
fantastic.
Well, it's in a way, it's a definition of that. It's an example of that. Do what you love, and the money will follow type of thing. Because I love doing it. And in the early years, I wasn't even that bothered about if I was about getting paid, really, if I could be on stage and doing it. And I never gave that side of it that much thought. And then eventually I started, do you want to open? In the States, you start as a host, and then then you move to feature act, which is middle, aka middle, and then you're headlining. So I went up pretty quickly through the ranks. But again, I was only just, I didn't really think about the money till about 10 years later. And then I thought, I'm starting to make money. That's pretty cool. But, and now these days it's funny. I've come full circle, and I'm trying to rediscover that drive and that thrill of just going to do sets. So I do make myself go out a lot of nights off. I'm still out there doing 10-minute spots, drop-ins.
That's great, man.
Everywhere. And I'm not going to lie to you, Steve, and tell you that I'm as hungry as I was back then, because I'm, realistically, I'm not on the tail end of my career. I'm on the tail end of my life. You know what I mean? I'm already halfway through this thing.
I know.
So but I'm trying to rekindle that excitement and that drive, and it's almost like momentum thing. If I keep doing sets and I go, fudge, that was fun. I want to do that again. And also that can help me be more inspired when I'm writing. And I also started a thing where I do try to write every day, usually only for 25 minutes. I just sit there and try to, in front of a notebook, and just try to write. And then as a rule, I try to do that every day.
Well, that's a good rule. I don't do that every day, which is I should do, because that's a great rule. Because some people go, I wait for inspiration, but the inspiration doesn't come. You got to tickle the muse by sitting there with that thing,
And then I think my theory is that 25 minutes, especially if it's done on the earlier side, I haven't done it yet today, by the way. I'm gonna do it after we get off the thing. You might sit there for 25 minutes and rack your brain and nothing. And I've literally just doodle and draw an alien or something and nothing, right? But then later, an hour later, 2 hours later, boom, an idea could just pop into my head, because I call it priming. It's like, I didn't come up with the term, but it's a term in that book, Thinking Fast and Slow. They talk about it. If you prime your mind to write jokes by trying to write jokes, your mind's already, those little receptors that look for premises, they're up there scanning. They're still going once you stop and you go, wait a second, no, that's it. Or you just see clearly, that's a good bit. It just comes to you.
Right.
So it's as much the aftermath of trying to write than it is the actual trying to write. Now, I think it's important, but in terms of doing it every day, the method that works pretty well for me is, you might have heard of it, don't break the chain. Have you heard about that?
No.
It's a method that Seinfeld is a proponent of, and I don't like worship Seinfeld or anything, but I've heard that he was using an example of people that have used it. Basically, you make a goal of something like, I want to work out for 20 minutes every day, or I want to write for 20 minutes every day, or I'll practice guitar for 15 minutes a day, whatever. And you make a circle on your calendar for that day. And then the next day you do it again. Then the circles you link the circles like that. And you're trying to build a chain. And the idea is that the higher you get, the less likely you are to want to break your chain. You know, if your chain has got 80 links, well, you're lazy, you don't feel like writing, but you don't want to screw up your 80 link chain. I've gotten almost to 100, and then I forget. Usually I would forget to write, and I'll go, the next day I go, damn it.
Yeah, broke the chain.
Yeah, no, you got to start over.
Oh,
so
mate.
I screwed up last week, and for complete, I said, it's one of those days I said, I'll do it before bed. Sometimes you push it to the end, you say, it's only 5 minutes, but it still counts. And then I forgot, and so I had to start over. So now I'm only on like link 5, but I'm going to try to build up. And you just get momentum and try to build the longest chain you can. You can have chain competitions with friends. I mean, you got to almost gamify it to make it fun. But I know I'm talking a lot, but I've had 3 cups of coffee. You know that idea that
I'm on the decaf these days because I've already been too full on my whole life.
That's fine, yeah. People say, you know, I've heard this example. Someone asked Jennifer Aniston, how do you stay in such good shape? Well, I work out every day. How do you do it? How do you stay motivated? And she said this. Now, she may not be the first person to say that, but she said, you have to get to the point where you don't think about it. It's like brushing your teeth. Yeah, and I've heard that one. Almost everyone watching this, at least 80% of them brush their teeth every day. And they don't think about it. You know, we just do it. It's not fun. You know, we just do it because it's what we do, because we should. I would like to get joke writing to that point, you know, where it's like I try to write jokes just so that I could not have the stress of having a new show. I just have lots of new material all the time. That's my dream. As far as working out, comparing that to brushing your teeth, I don't get it. Because my toothbrush doesn't weigh 15 kilos. You know what I mean? And also, if I don't work out, my arms aren't going to rot and fall off. You know what I mean? So it's not exactly the same.
Man, I love this idea. And I've kind of had this idea my whole life too. And I just started to figure, it's like when we started being in bands, we'd go on tour. Well, we thought we were on tour. We only had 2 shows. We had to drive all the way to Melbourne to do 2 shows in a pub. But in my mind, we're on tour.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I love Rush again. The imagination is so powerful. And if you're just doing something, and I loved what you said before, where the money wasn't that much of it at the start, either for me.
Yeah.
Why? It's because I'm creating the dream now. And if I keep doing it, then even if no one's paying me, I'm doing it.
Absolutely. And
if you wait to be paid, then I'm waiting to be this or waiting to be that. No, you're not doing it. You need to start and then just do it. Now you're doing it, and then other things can come. Man, it's a great attitude.
Absolutely. And if it was just about money, you would quit, because you could get a day job or whatever and earn, you know, whatever per week, much more than you earn in the early days of comedy.
Totally.
And you wouldn't have to worry. But it's really not about that. You do it.
No.
You do it because it's inside you for some reason, and it's fun. I mean, it's fun as hell. Who are we kidding? When you're up there and you're making people laugh and you're feeling that energy, it's like lighting off firecrackers, you know. You're just like exploding a crowd, basically. It's fun.
Oh yeah, it's totally fun. You know, I always needed a job. When I grew up, I was always artistic as a kid. Wasn't a good drawer or anything. I grew up with a guy who could draw. You know, these guys could just draw at school. You know,
Absolutely.
They're only 12 and they go like this and they've drawn this whole scene, right? But I was always reading books and imaginative and that, and then I was into bands and I was obsessed. So I just realized that I can't. The normal job will kill me.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd rather just put all this effort into. If no one's paying me, it doesn't matter, because that inner drive, just as you said, wasn't a chore.
Yeah,
It's a lot of work, but it wasn't a chore. It's like when I got to England. Oh, you got to do this, mate. I gave myself 10 years to get good at comedy in England, and I was on that comedy circuit for a whole decade. Right? And you wouldn't believe it. I arrived there on the 16th of April, 1999, which in astrology is the day of the cosmic comedian. How weird.
wow.
And then I said, I'll give myself 10 years to get good at comedy. So I was in the club scene for 10 whole years. And I started to go a bit mad at the end, because I'd been to every club constantly for 10 years. It was great. It was brilliant, right? And I said to my agent, I've got to go back to Australia and take some time off. I said, book me a flight. He goes, there's not one next week, but one the week after. It's a lot cheaper. I went, yeah, book that one then. I go, when is it? He goes, 16th of April. I went, what?
Wow.
I went 10 years to the day. Right? I said, I give myself 10 years to get good at comedy. And I think it does take about 10 years, these things, you know, to get till you just completely, now I'm a comedy machine, you know.
Well, I mean, I think that I just think it's I prefer to think that you're always. I'd rather keep that beginner mind outlook, because
Totally, man.
I mean, last night I did a set and I followed this guy, and this was in Melbourne, and I just did a drop-in set, and he was terrific, and I wish I got his name, but he's from Sydney, and it's just really funny and unexpected. And the material was very unexpected. The directions it went, got a very good reaction from the audience, and I was like, man, that guy's funny. And then I had just had a really fun set just before that, and I felt like, and I'm sure you've had this experience. I felt like, man, I am funny as hell. Like in my mind, I was thinking like, man, I was playing that audience like a fiddle. You know what I mean? Like my timings was exquisite, and I felt really good about myself. And then I went on and just really, really felt flat following this guy, and my jokes felt forced, and I felt stupid. And then this lady was, to be fair, she was a bit of a menace. She was interrupting me. And I went from from the stagecoach to the pumpkin like real quick, you know what I mean? Which can happen a lot. And I didn't even last. I was supposed to do 8 minutes. I got off after 4. I said, I'm done.
yeah. Man, I know what you mean. As I said you get, 10 years gives you get turned into something where you're a comedy machine, but it doesn't mean that you kill every time, and it doesn't mean you should stop trying to improve either. I agree with you entirely. Neil Peart from Rush, who we both love, obviously. That guy's a drum god. He's been on the drum covers of magazines, the covers of drum magazines for times. But what did he do after all these tours and everyone worshipped him? He'd go and get drum lessons.
Yeah, and also famously Kirk Hammett from Metallica as well. At the height of their success, I think post Black Album was taking lessons from Joe Satriani.
Yeah.
Or I don't know for sure on the timing, but it's in that documentary, Some Kind of Monster, and it's really a good reminder that you can always learn more, because in your whole lifetime you could never know, you could never write. There'd still be brilliant jokes, for instance, that you haven't thought of. There'd still be situations that you would be uncomfortable with or that you couldn't deal with. So it's always it's an infinite, and the music's the same way. Absolutely, because who could say that mastered music? There's still you can master, if you're lucky, you can spend a whole lifetime and get really good at one little tiny corner of music, But just guitar. I play guitar as a hobby, but I know it'll always be a hobby, because even if I was getting, I just can't even imagine. I could pick. There's so many areas you could go off into, and it's like infinite. And everything's like that too. Like let's say you like gin. Like there's a whole world of gin out there, and a billion gins out there you could try. Or same thing with, people think there's just 3 types of tequila. There's some people are tequila, every little aspect in life. You could spend your whole life trying to learn more about the common housefly, and you still wouldn't find out everything about it. Everywhere you go, there's an infinite world to explore.
Oh man, that's why I must admit I have been lazy with the because I agree with you. 25 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. It's keeping that chain, like he said. It's keeping the muse. It tickles the muse.
Yeah.
I just wait for inspiration. No, the inspiration comes to the people they see sitting down, even if you get nothing that day.
Well,
And I know it works because even though I don't do it every day, I know when I go on a tour,
yeah,
if I've got the show, and once the show's in me, once I'm on tour and I'm doing comedy, especially if I'm doing like 60 dates, a tour like that,
yeah,
like comedy flows out of me then.
yeah, sure, because the
Oh,
wheels are turning. But also with the 25 minutes a day, and I have some rough days where I don't get anything. But really, if you do the math, you need roughly 60 seconds a week of keepable material. That's basically a new hour-long show every year, which is probably more than most of us need anyway, because just touring an hour-long show in most markets would take over a year. But that's 52 minutes. You know, if mathematically, it's 52 minutes of new material a year, which is basically an hour. So I always try to remind myself about, if I'm not thinking of anything, I think, that's fine. I'm here. I'm trying. Tomorrow, maybe. And you might get one premise tomorrow that might be a 4-minute bit. Then you got your gear for the whole month.
Yeah,
just for one little idea.
Yeah, totally, man. I agree. It's fantastic. And then, as you said, if you get your new 50 and you go on the road, then you get more when you're on the road.
Yeah, that's true. That's just the bonus. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the bonus.
Or yeah, you fix stuff up in front of the audience, and you go, oh, I said it different. That's why I often record my shows, but then I hardly ever listen to them. But if something crucial happened, I need to remember it. That's why I try to record it.
No, that's man. I should have done that. Yeah, I bet Seinfeld was smart enough to do that for years and go home and listen to it, because I've done that. Right, the punchline just comes to me on stage. I've been wanting a better punchline, then it comes on stage, and then I have to go. But remember that, write it down.
Or the wording, or just the right word, just the right wording to say something. Yeah, it's always when you're not recording though. You record 9 shows, and then you say the 10th one, I won't bother, and that's the one where you're just magical, just everything's perfect. You know, so you can't win.
When I was on, when I had a support act, when I was on these big tours in the UK, I had a deal with my support act, and he'd just sit there with a show with a pad and paper.
Oh, okay.
And then I just say something. I go, that. You go, right.
That's nice. Yeah, you tell him. Can you write that down?
Yeah. Capture that one. So, all right, this is a great conversation.
The human recorder.
Yeah. So you've done a film. That's what. And and that's coming out soon, or is it out?
Yeah, I mean, it's out currently in cinemas right now. I don't know for how much longer, because it's a small film, and it's competing against Dune, so that's always a bad idea. The new Dune movie. But yeah, we wrote a film. We started writing about 5 or 6 years ago. Myself and Sam Bowering, a Sydney comic, and we banged out the idea initially as a TV series, a comedy series. And then later we've met a guy looking for film ideas, and he worked on behalf of some investors who want to invest in a low budget film. They love film. They're fans of film, and they're also investors with a bunch of money who can find some kind of tax loopholes. If they create a film and it makes it to cinema, then they can somehow, it's a tax haven. I don't know how it works. But anyway, long story short, we got it made. And I contributed a lot, and one of the writers, but also there was other people like Scott Corfield who worked tirelessly to keep it afloat, because it kept looking like it wasn't going to happen. Oh, these guys pulled out. Oh, that funding body said if you don't have them, they're out. Oh, you can't get Flight of the Conchords to be in it. Sorry, we're gone. All that kind of stuff. Because at one point we were saying, maybe we can get the boys involved, but then they had other projects, and the people suddenly weren't as interested. Which is, there's a lot of harsh realities that you face, but Scott wouldn't give up, and we got it made. And so it's basically a family-friendly comedy. It's a very sweet film. It's not as cynical as you'd expect. It's not as cynical as a lot of comedies that come out these days. And what's rare about it is it's an Australian-made comedy film, which they're not making that many of them. They make a lot of these gritty crime dramas, some great horror movies. Talk to Me is one of them. And there's some other ones that have come out. I love that genre. I love scary movies. But there's not so many comedies coming out, so we got one made. And I actually expect it'll be more popular once it hits streaming, and people can just watch it and give it a chance. And it's called The Nut Farm. Basically, I'm a cryptocurrency trader who goes broke trading crypto. And I know it sounds more like a documentary so far, but then I inherit a macadamia farm around the same time in Australia, and I've never been there. So I went to Australia thinking, I'll sell the farm, take the money, buy more crypto, and then the lawyer says, and the lawyer's played by Tyrio Mora, who played Dennis Denaro. What's his name? The lawyer from the castle. You know the castle? Denudo. Dennis Denudo.
It's the vibe of the thing, man.
It's the vibe.
It's
The
just
vibe.
the thing, you know.
I haven't seen.
It's just a vibe. It's just a vibe, man.
I haven't watched it, and people get so mad, Steve. They said, "You haven't seen The Castle?" I said, "No, I haven't seen it because I'm American. Like that's for Australians. That's like every Australian should see that movie. Fine, but I'm American. But I don't expect that. I don't expect that you guys have seen Independence Day. You know what I mean? That's our movie.
You still haven't seen The Castle?
I've seen part of it. I have it on DVD, and I got to watch the rest of it.
It is a funny movie.
Anyway, Dennis is in our film playing a lawyer as well, and he says you can't just sell the farm. You have to harvest 20 tons of macadamias in order to prove that you're worthy of it. So that sets up the movie and the uphill battle, the hero's journey, if you will. Got to get the girl, played by Madeline West, single mom, tough female character, single mom running a cattle farm and dairy farm. And then there's a villain, and our villains are Kiwis. They're Kiwi frackers. So it's a real sort of surreal aspect to this film. They've tunneled all the way from New Zealand to Australia to steal the gas and send it back to New Zealand because they want to keep New Zealand pristine and just they don't mind destroying Australia to get the gas. So it's super goofy.
Typical Kiwis.
But it's sort of a happy film that leaves you feeling kind of good with an environmental message. It's definitely not what I expected to make, but it's there's when you make a film, there's so many cooks in the kitchen, is what I discovered.
Man, I can't imagine. It's hard enough being in bands and doing records. I could settle as a film, man.
Yeah, because film is people with the money, people with the people that decide what gets rated, the director's vision, the writer's vision. There's so many expectations all coming together. So I'm pretty happy how it turned out, actually.
So it was independently made, though. You haven't got the hassle of having, because I've watched a lot of documentaries on filmmakers, and then they've got it, and they're making it, and then they're almost there, and then the whole studio comes back with going, no.
Yeah, no.
We pulled that bit out. We don't want it to be a war movie now. We want it to be a romance movie. Like, well, what?
No, we only had a little bit of guidance from the investors. I mean, ideally you want everyone to be happy, but it's independently funded.
Yeah, right.
And the director, of course, had to take into account the investors' opinions to some degree, and also the distributor got involved a little bit before the final cut, so they had a little bit of say. And it wasn't many test screenings because we don't have the budget for that. So it is what it is. But yeah, it's really actually quite a enjoyable little film. It's a little film, but I predict it'd be the kind of movie someone would like to watch when they've had a few beers on Saturday night and they're just relaxing on a Sunday. They ordered a pizza. Maybe, the kids are around. They can chuck our movie on and definitely laugh out loud a handful of times, which is an achievement for any film, really.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Congratulations, buddy. That's a big.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
It's a big project, man. A film. Whew.
Yeah, it was.
Having a hard enough time looking at how to use my computer to do a podcast.
Yeah, it's well, yeah. I had a lot of the hardest stuff I didn't do. I just helped write it and showed up to act in it. But anyway, we all worked on it quite hard. But Scott Corfield was the real driving force behind getting it made, I think, to be fair.
All right. And that's out now in cinemas, is it?
Yeah.
All right.
It's in a handful of cinemas around Australia and New Zealand.
Have you snuck in? Have you snuck in and watched it as the guy in it?
No, we did some screenings with where it was like a Q&A afterwards. So we did one in different cities. No, I haven't done that.
I put the fake beard on and the hoodie, hey, and go in.
Yeah. No, I'd be like, hello.
Yeah.
I'm not shy.
I'm the nut farmer.
I'm the guy. No, if they like it, then I'll be like, any questions? No, I haven't done that.
Do your own Q&A, no, it's...
My friend went and saw it with his nephews, one of the other writers, Sam, and he went with about 3 other people, and they were the only people in the theater, so he didn't have to worry about the disguise.
All right.
But no, we knew it was an uphill battle, but just getting it in cinemas was a big step. But also it was important for the investors because that has something to do with the tax break that you can get if you make a film and it has a cinematic run. It triggers a much higher tax relief. It's all legal. It's not dodgy or anything, but I don't completely understand it.
No, neither do I. You know,
but streaming, that's where our hopes are. Streaming.
Streaming. And so you've got, you still got some time left?
Yeah, sure. Maybe we can talk
about your new tour.
Maybe we can wind down if that's okay, because I just got a few things I want to do.
No worries. Well, that's what I was thinking. Bring up your new tour.
However, if you want to do a part 2 sometime, that's fine. We can also schedule that if you want to get it, because there's a million things we could talk about: UFOs, consciousness, meditation. I love all that stuff too.
Fantastic! I'll do another one. But let's you wanted to hold up your flyer before. Is this the new tour you're doing, or is the new?
Yeah, so I'm doing my. So it's very psychedelic design. That was my idea. I mean, I asked for something psychedelic.
And you got it.
Well, I imagine there'd be a tree behind me, but instead it was just my head and no tree. But you got to let the designers do what they want to do. This is just the Club Life. This is a pamphlet from Ballina RSL. It's just that they did quite a nice job, actually. So this is the actual poster. I'll just hold it up like that.
And so this is the new tour you're doing.
Yeah, it's called the Mind Field, and it's because one of the themes in it is what is the nature of reality. And so that's a pretty big topic to tackle in a comedy show, but really that's just something I touch upon. It's not like the whole show is super deep and trippy, but there is some. I do talk about meditation, and I do talk about my theory of it's not really only my theory, but it's the idea that consciousnness is probably primary as opposed to matter, which is most of science says matters, stars, Big Bang, stars, atoms come together, miracle, we won't talk about that, and then consciousness.
Yeah.
But some of the quantum research being done now is indicating that consciousness is a big part of everything, and it's inseparable from the way things work. And so they're more fringe at the moment, but really smart people suggest that, including every Buddhist ever, and all that.
I know.
Suggests that consciousness is actually primary, and everything else is emergent. So anyway, that long story short, I do touch on that in the show, but I'm sure you can understand this. You're someone who has a lot of ideas that you feel passionate about, and you want to convey them in your show. But when people come to a comedy show, they want to laugh. So it's kind of like, yeah, I want to tell you what I think about how things work, but I know you expect to laugh. So it's trying to find that bridge, trying to find that halfway.
It's exactly that bridge.
And so I've done that pretty well, I think, in this show. But I don't spend all day on it. There's other subjects in the show, like dogs and Airbnbs and farts and coffee and all kinds of stuff. So, it's a whole hour, but it's a really fun show. It's early days, and I still love doing it. After you tour the show for like a year and a half, you sometimes get to the point where, man, if I have to talk about this one more time, I'm going to strangle somebody. But at this point, I still love it. It's so fun.
Well, that's great. I've looked into a lot of Buddhist stuff over the years, and the consciousness first, the emergent of the physical matter from that, which I think we should come on again and have a chat about that.
Absolutely.
That'd be really interesting. Go into non-dualism and.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was going to show you this other guy. Have you came across Donald Hoffman?
I don't know Donald Hoffman. I used to read a lot of Adyashanti.
Oh, cool.
And,
Donald Hoffman's a scientist or a researcher, and his theories are, man, they're so next level. I love that guy. Anyway, look up Donald Hoffman on YouTube if you're curious about that. He's been my biggest inspiration to rethink how everything is. But it made me more positive, even if I'm wrong. It's like anything, like even if you read about Buddhism, you start to feel happier because it's saying, look, it's a very positive message, even if it's all hocus pocus. Who cares if I feel better after it? Then I'm having a better life.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. I know what you mean. I used to do that with pot.
Yeah.
I
You feel better. Yeah, booze too. Yeah, I've taken a break off booze now. I'm over.
Oh, mate, I'm off the booze. A bit off.
Yeah.
Mate,
Good for you.
Booze was never an issue for me, though.
Yeah, I'm 30 days plus now. I'm feeling pretty good. It was an intuitive decision one day. I said, just going to stop doing this, see how I feel.
Yeah, man, I haven't drunk booze. Actually, I had some wine on Sunday day with my friend Dominic, which is the first booze I've had for probably 6 months.
Wow, well done.
But
I
never had an issue with booze. Booze I only ever had when I was at parties.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I didn't think about it. So if I wasn't at a party and I was at home, I didn't drink booze. Never. I've never had a drink at home.
Okay. I've had a few beers at home, but I didn't stop on account of I thought I was, ruining my life or anything. I just stopped because I thought,
see what happens.
No, I just sort of thought this is kind of not doing that much for me anymore. It's like, it was redundant. It's like, oh, beer. Okay, it's all right.
Yeah.
Because what I'm interested in now is actually raising my awareness somehow, whatever it takes.
Not depressing.
I'd like to expand my awareness, and I feel like alcohol is the other direction. Even though it might be fun, I think it's in a way reducing your awareness a little bit. Obviously, if you drink enough, you reduce your awareness so much you're passed out on the floor, right? So I'm not denying that it's fun, and I've had many years of drinking recreationally. Many years. And for me, it was just time to take a break and see what life's like without it, and I feel good. But no, it's not about judging anyone who drinks or whatever. But, and I still wouldn't say there's things I do want to do that aren't booze or pot that might expand my awareness. I'm still curious about that stuff. There's things I haven't tried yet.
Well, that's funny you say I'm not judging anyone. I was about to say I've never had a drink at home. I really didn't have an issue with booze. Believe me, I've got up to mischief with lots of other chaotic stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Like, people might be drinking a couple of bottles of wine at night, and I'm going, I don't drink wine at home. Yeah, but I'm like Peter Tosh for 40 years.
Sure.
Everyone's got their vice in one way.
Yeah, we all have our things.
Yeah. My biggest addictions was sugar and weed.
Okay. I like sugar still. And I've been a pot smoker at pretty regular pot smoker at times, but I haven't been for years. Just occasionally playing music, it's nice.
Yeah.
And when I'm in a country where it's legal, so I'd never hear it.
Yeah.
And of course, what's fun is watching trip reports on YouTube of all the different things. You can kind of vicariously do things without doing them.
What's the trip report? Sorry.
Oh, it's where people write a detailed account of what happened when they took a particular substance.
Right. Like a trip. Right. Okay. Right.
But there's heaps of ones of mushrooms and LSD and DMT and all that. But what's really entertaining and also kind of daunting is look at some of the other stuff like datura. People take like a ton of datura, and then their accounts are next level insanity.
It's because you could go insane. You could kill yourself. You're out of your mind.
Oh my! I mean, this one guy wakes up. He comes to like 60 miles from his house in someone's house he doesn't know, in the closet, naked, covered in his own feces. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. Well,
insane.
You're taking datura, man. What are you talking about?
It's a delirium. It's not even. It's classified as a delirium. I'm never going to take it, Steve. I'm not saying that.
No. I didn't think you would. You'd be a nutcase.
But for entertainment's sake, I love hearing. And these people very methodically recorded what happened. I mean, maybe they're making up. Either way, it's entertaining as hell.
Yeah.
And it makes you not want to take it, though. And then I was walking my dogs, and I was like, I saw the little pods hanging over a fence, and I said, "Oh my God, that's the devil's trumpet!"
I must admit, cool. I drank so much booze after a gig in Ireland once when I was on tour. I had a hotel, I'm pretty sure, but I woke up in a house.
Wow.
Of people I didn't know, and no one was there.
That's wild. That's good. I'm
All I
glad
can
you're.
remember was going into the bathroom to take a piss, and I walk in, and there was one of those shower mats with those two. Remember the '70s kind of foot, like you get on a surfboard or something. Those kind of.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that, and then just working out why am I in this house? And then I had to wander off and find out.
Well, they were very trusting. They left you there. They went to work.
Maybe I just broke into some house and went to bed. I can't remember. Anyway,
that's good.
So yeah, there's no judgment here, folks. We've been up to mystery.
No, we're no saints.
All right. Well, you've got stuff to do. We've done about an hour, have we?
Yeah, something like that. I haven't looked. I lost count.
48.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, this is the shortest one, but I'd love to have you back on if you want to go and.
Okay.
We've done some good comedy stuff here. If people,
we haven't even brought up UFOs or anything, so yeah, we should definitely do it.
We should do UFOs. We'll do some non-dualism, some Buddhism, some.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some physical matter manifesting out of pure.
Don't forget lucid dreaming.
Don't forget. I haven't done that. What is that exactly? Because I smoked so much weed for years, I wasn't dreaming.
It's really fun. It's probably the most safest and yet simultaneously most powerful hallucinogenic experience you can have. Like a dream is a full immersive experience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you touch something in a dream, you feel it, and it's the brain's computing it the same way as it does our waking reality. But basically, in short, lucid dreaming is the ability to realize you're dreaming while you're dreaming.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, I've heard about that.
And then you realize you're in a dream, and so you know that, say, that person over there is just a projection, and so you can just watch what happens, or if you're really good at it, supposedly you can control what happens or dictate any reality you want. I'm at a lower level where I've just become aware in a handful of dreams over the last few years, and so I mostly am. I'll say, so I'm still sort of at the mercy of my environment in the dream. So I'll say, I'm going to go through this door and see what's going on, but I'm not like saying, no, I want to be in a mansion, or I want to be on a mountaintop, or I want to fly. I do fly. Usually when I know, I go, woo, and I just jump in the air and start flying, which is not uncommon for beginning lucid dreamers. But I have a million books on it, actually like 7, and I love it. So I could talk about that for a whole hour if you want. I love it.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. I've read about lucid dreaming, of course, but I've never done it. The idea of that, I'm in the dream and I can, I know I'm in a dream, so now I'm going to rock around in here.
Well, there's methods for encouraging it to happen, so they're real simple. So I can go into those next time we talk if you want. I can.
Yeah, all right, no worries.
They're real simple.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, no problem. Good to see you. It's nice to see you and catch up finally, because I haven't seen you in a while. So
yeah, man. Well, hopefully I'll come down to Melbourne and I'll see you. And
oh yeah,
if you enjoyed that, folks. I just got a lot of shows on at the Athenaeum Theatre, so rock on down. And
yeah, that's true. Yeah, 8:15 every night except Monday. That's going to be awesome. Oh, we might be 7:15 on Sunday if you're religious. Come down to that one, but it's going to be super fun. But also, let me know when you come down here, because I'd love to catch up and maybe have your producer schedule us a 30-minute hangout.
No worries, brother. Beautiful.
No, I'm kidding. Just schedule directly. Yeah, you've
got the official play date with Arj Barker today, Steve. Yay!
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Brother. Thank you, man.
Okay, have a great day. All the best.
Brother. Talk to you soon. Good luck.
Take care, pal.